Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. With the growing demand for automation, I felt there was a need for a comprehensive masterclass which touches all the sweet spots of the important concepts. And don't worry, even if you are a beginner or even if you have some kind of experience working in IT, this series will help you at every step in your goal towards pure automation with Ansible. If you wish to learn things differently and if you love visualizations, then what are we waiting for? Join me and let's travel through the world of automation with Ansible for 2021. So if you're ready, let's begin. Welcome to the first part of Ansible, the introduction. I know this may not excite many of you, but if you wish to have a strong house, you need to have a strong foundation. And that is the reason why I would advise you to not skip this section. And in this session, we will be learning about the whats and whys of automation, why automation is considered to be a breakthrough in the current technological paradigm, why is Ansible special, and what can we do with Ansible. So when we think of automation, there is an instant idea that pops up about how the things that were previously done manually has been turned into a cycle of events or steps to achieve the same outcome, but with less human intervention. So this is Jenny. She is an independent consultant, and Jenny starts her day with a strong cup of coffee, and she likes to have her coffee specially brewed and prepared by herself every morning. So now let's understand how Jenny prepares her perfect cup of coffee. So she starts with, she first measures the amount of coffee beans she needs, then she grinds it to a perfect texture, then she moves on to have the coffee pressed and has her water exactly boiled at 92 degrees and keeps it for filtering. Then she adds a dash of milk and pours it to her favorite cup and then enjoys her perfect cup of coffee with her daily newspaper. And the preparation time for this is around 40 minutes approximately, and due to the time constraints and work pressure, Jenny wasn't able to prepare her perfect cup of coffee every day. Even though she was feeling the heat, she wasn't willing to give up. And for that, Jenny decided that she will automate the whole process. And let's see, how did she do that? She combined the steps, the exact measurement and the steps that she did manually and created a small automation machine or an automated machine which would take the list of raw ingredients and would deliver the final product, which would give her the taste of the coffee she always had every morning. And now she was able to replicate the same steps in just 6 minutes, saving more than 30 minutes of her precious time. So what did we understand here? So with automation, we are not necessarily reinventing the wheel. When Jenny felt the need for automation, she didn't just save time, but she was able to achieve much more than what we might have taken into consideration at first. With automation, she was able to increase the speed at which she was able to process the product, where if she has a problem with any individual component, she can change it and it will be up and running in no time. And it will deliver the same taste every day. If we can take this analogy of coffee and translate it to IT infrastructure or application deployment, just imagine how much impact it would make to the overall process. But how can we do that? Yes, of course, with Ansible. So what is Ansible? So Ansible is a radically simple IT automation engine that automates cloud provisioning, configuration management, application deployment, intra-service orchestration, and many other IT needs. I realize that these terms may be very intimidating now, but don't worry, we will together cover these topics in detail as and when we move forward. So the most important thing for us is to be clear that Ansible is an open source community project sponsored by Red Hat. And it's tagged to be the simplest way to automate IT. And you will be glad to know that Ansible is written with Python, PowerShell, Shell, and Ruby. Thanks to Mr. Michael Dehan, who was the one who invented or developed the Ansible tool, which later on went to become Ansible Works and then Ansible Incorporation, and which went on to be acquired by Red Hat in October 2015. We spoke a lot about automation, but we also need to understand why we need to learn Ansible and why Ansible has been the technology of choice for a lot of companies. So let's meet the DevOps team of a company and let's understand their use case. So Sophie, John, David, and Kevin work as a part of the DevOps team. They have a task to deploy the application on more than 50 servers. And they have to follow a set of protocols to achieve the desired sign-off for the product team or the product deployment team. And the steps that they need to perform are First, they need to stop the monitoring activity or the service. Then they have to associate it back to the load balancer. And all of them have to repeat the same steps across all the servers. The team was using shell scripts to achieve this, but they were unable to achieve the level of automation they needed. And that's where Ansible could make a difference. With Ansible, the team didn't have to write the custom code to set up all the deployment activities, and they could easily write or convert each step into working modules called tasks. And using a single playbook, they were able to perform the same deployment activity with much more efficiency. Not only they were able to save time, but they were also able to collaborate on tasks that could be optimized or changed later on by just a single or a simple code commit. And yes, these tasks that we have here are composed in what we call as Ansible Playbook, and they act as the description of the desired state of your system, which means you can have control of the state of which you want to bring your instances or servers using the playbook. With my personal experience, I would tell you that in a very short time, I am sure you will be able to be very comfortable writing playbooks. It's that easy. All the repeated steps that you used to perform during the deployment process can be achieved by making them a part of the task in the Ansible playbooks. And the best part about Ansible is it's agentless. You don't need to pre-install an Ansible agent on your servers in order to use Ansible, because Ansible works with SSH connections to the servers to perform its actions. That's what makes it reliable and secure and equally efficient. And Ansible doesn't stop at application deployment. It also can help us automate our infrastructure, the network configuration, and also it works with container deployments and also helps us with security. And yes, it also works with cloud. With Ansible, you can manage physical devices such as bare metal servers with Cobbler Stack and Red Hat Satellite, and network devices such as Cisco, Juniper, or Arista, and storage devices like NetApp and servers such as HP Enterprise. And for virtualization, Ansible supports all the leading virtualization platforms such as VMware, Red Hat Virtualization, or what we call as RHV, or Zen servers and Vagrant. And that is one of the most challenging things with the network engineers and DevOps engineers as well. With Ansible, you can automate and reduce the complexity of long, detailed, and complex method of procedures, or what we call as MOPs. And the MOPs are basically the steps that are used as a part of the network deployment. And with Ansible, you can easily test and validate the existing network state and services and have continuous compliance. And Ansible has a very good setup of network automation with Red Hat Ansible Automation Platform, which provides the capability of Ansible Towers, which provides all these features that can be used to ensure that you have a proper automation footprint. Moving on to the containers. Yes, if you are working with Docker and container-based application deployment, Ansible works with Dockers as well. So let's see the example here where we use Ansible for total application deployment with CI/CD in place. So David that we have here commits his code for the new changes he has made to GitHub along with the playbook for Docker, which is being fed as a part of the CI/CD to Jenkins, post which we have initialized Ansible to push the Docker image to the Docker Hub for redundancy, and we create the containers using the latest build. So Ansible makes it very easy for us to manage the steps involved in the container deployment as well. So this is one of the very basic ideas of using Ansible when it comes to Dockers and containers. So let's come to something that people are really interested in nowadays. Yes, it's Ansible for the cloud. Ansible has its core libraries that provide a base that can help us to easily provision instances, networks, and complete cloud infrastructure wherever you need. With Ansible, you can effectively deploy and manage your infrastructure, such as managing servers. It helps with cloud-native routing and networking, with creating virtual private networks, access policies and permissions, load balancers, and auto-scaling policies, and much more. We get support for the most widely used public cloud platforms like AWS, GCP, Azure, VMware, DigitalOcean, and Rackspace. And for private cloud platforms, we have support for technologies like Webfaction, CloudStack, and OpenStack as well. And as we close down on the question at hand, that is why Ansible, let's check these points, or these 4 points that it really boils down to. So as we already discussed before, Ansible lets us automate complex repeatable tasks or steps and deploys applications at ease. When you know that you're going to save time with automation, You can share the configuration output with your team members, making it usable by others. And with playbooks, it becomes easy to collaborate with other team members working on the different parts of the task, which can be combined together and executed at once later on. And it's very easy to automate because you don't need to change your existing technology stack that you're using right now. And that's a very big relief, I think, for most of us. In today's session, we will do some interesting stuff in our journey towards automation with Ansible. I know the last episode was all about the background and mostly theoretical, but in this session, there is a lot for you to set up as well along with me. So first off, we will create some virtual machines in AWS and set up the workbench. We will learn how we can install Ansible and test some basic features. And we'll also do some environment setup using Ansible inventory. So if you're ready, let's begin. In the previous session, we discussed how we were able to minimize the workload of our DevOps team by using playbooks and Ansible, and they were able to install and deploy applications across multiple servers using the playbook. So to do this, what we need is we need to have an Ansible master, which obviously will be the working station of our DevOps team members, and from which we will try to control the servers where we need to perform the changes or install or deploy the application. And that is the biggest advantage of using Ansible, that is because you don't have to install any agents on the target machines in order to make changes in them. You can just use SSH for Unix based machines and remote PowerShell for Windows machines. So here our testing environment will be setting up master node and 2 or 3 target nodes so that we can simulate a real-time deployment scenario. And at the end of this series, we will deploy an actual application as well. So get ready for that. Now let's go ahead and create some virtual machines and install Ansible, and let's have some fun. But before that, please make sure you have your AWS free tier account. I have given a link in the description on how you can create one for yourself if you don't have it, so that you can make use of it and you can create your own EC2 instances. So if you don't have a free tier account, please go to the link in the description below and create your own free tier account, and then you can create your own EC2 instances. So if you're new to AWS and if you haven't launched any instances before, then what you can do is you can just go to the console here. You will find services drop down. So you can just click on this and you can click on EC2, or you can just type here EC2. You will get EC2 virtual servers in the cloud. So you can just click on this as well. So once you have clicked this, you will get a dashboard for EC2. So this is the EC2 dashboard. So this is the place where all the magic happens when we consider the EC2 instances. And if you see here, we have the service health that is mentioned for the particular region. All servers are operating normally, so you're good to go. So you can just click on launch instance. And what we are going to do is we are going to launch 3 instances. So one will be the master node and the other 2 will be our target nodes, isn't it? So we'll choose Amazon Linux 2, that is free tier eligible, and I'll select the x86 version. Just select that. Click on configure instance details. So we can just choose the t2.micro, that is because it is a free tier eligible one, and then just click on configure instance details. Here you can just choose a default VPC and you can choose one of the subnets that you want. And here you can just enable the public IP assignment. That's it. You don't have to do anything else. Just click on storage. This is also fine. Just add tags. So we are going to add a tag here. So that will be name. And this will be our Ansible. So I've already created a separate security group for myself, but that is simple. It just allows port 22. So it's not a problem. So you can just create one, or you can just select an existing one. So if you want to create one, you can just give a name here and give a description here, and you can just allow SSH for 0.0.0.0/0, and you can give a description as well. So I'll go ahead and select the existing security group that I have, and I'll just click on review and launch. That is fine. This is fine for me, and just click on launch. So here it is asking for us to select a key pair, or we can create a new key pair as well. So what we're going to do is we are going to just, if you are new to this, then you have to create a new key pair. So if you click on create a new key pair, you will be allowed to download that key pair. But as I already have the key pair with me, I'll be choosing the existing one. So this is the one that I already have, ec2.key, and you have to acknowledge this. So I will just acknowledge this and I'll just click on launch instance. It's still not running, so that is why it is not showing me in the list. Just give it a few minutes, then it'll come up. So our new instance Ansible master is ready and it is running now. So you can click on this and you will see the public IP address that we have here. And that is what we'll use to connect to this instance. So once we have this, we need 2 more instances, isn't it? So what we can do, we can just right click on this. And if I want to create a similar instance with this one, then I can just go to images and templates and I can launch more like this. Just click on that. That is fine. Just launch. Use the same key pair, just click on launch a type. And I'll do this once again because I need to. So I'll just launch another instance. So I'll change the names of this one. So this will be my target 1. This target 1 and this is target 2. Okay. And before that, to connect to this instance, I want to install another tool that I wanted to use. Basically, I've already installed that, but I'll show you like how I have installed it. So this is the tool that I want you guys to use because I have been using it. You can also use MobaXterm or Putty. It depends on you, but actually this I've been using it for a while now, and I felt like this is a very good tool. So I just wanted to suggest you that if you feel like MobaXterm works fine for you, then you can use that as well. To install this, you can just go to the site https://terminus.com. I'll be providing the link also in the description. And once you go there, you can choose one of the platforms that you are currently working on and just click on the, let's suppose I'm working on Windows, I'll just click on Windows and I'll download the exe. Okay, so once you've installed this, once you've installed Terminus, you will see this interface that you will be greeted with. Basically, what we can do here is we can create multiple connections or multiple SSH connections, and we can save them as well. So that is one of the best parts that I like. So let's suppose I want to connect to an instance or SSH to a particular instance. What I can just do is I can just click on new host and I'll just add a name here. So it'll be my Ansible master and the address is, so the Ansible master, just copy the public and just paste it. So here, next what you can do is you can just mention the username. So username will be ec2-user and password is basically my key. So I'll just iterate it. If you want to add a key, you can just click on plus key and you can just give it ec2-. So this is my key, ec2 key-pem. I can just open that and I can just save it. So you can do the same as well, but I have already saved it, so I won't do that once again. So once you save it and you browse it, you will get this option to select the key. So you can just click on this and it will be chosen automatically. And the next thing that you want to do is you don't want to use a dark terminal theme. I will just choose a basic one because it's very dark for you to see. Okay, so no need to worry about this. That's it. You can just click on save. So once you have saved it, you can just double click on this one and add and connect. That's it. I'll just zoom it. So this is our Ansible master. Okay, so here is the place where we are going to install our Ansible, isn't it? So what is the thing that we need to do to install Ansible? We need to run a command. Okay, so what it is, sudo yum install Ansible. Okay, so what it is saying, for Amazon Linux 2, we have a separate command that you need to run. So that is sudo Amazon Linux extras, because it is present in the extras library. So you can just copy this. You can just hold Ctrl+Shift+C and you can just do a Ctrl+Shift+V if you want to copy paste. And now just press enter. This is very simple to install Ansible, isn't it? Everything starts simple and it ends up being a mess, but that's what we are trying to avoid, isn't it? So that you can see here, we have already installed Ansible 2.9.13. But now the main intention for us is to be able to connect to our target nodes using the Ansible master. That is what we are trying to achieve, isn't it? So for that, as you already know that we have created EC2 instances and we connect to the EC2 instances using SSH using the EC2 key, we have to have a set of keys here that we will use to connect to the EC2 instances. Okay, so for that what you need to do is you need to copy the key that you already have with yourself in the desktop that you have, and you have to create a copy here in the machine as well, on the master node as well, so that we can make use of it. So what I will do is I'll go to the home folder, and what I'll do, I'll just create a EC2 key here, EC2 key.pem. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the contents of my PEM file and I'm going to paste it here. Okay, so if you want to create file, you need to use a vim command and vim space the file name that you want to create. Just press I. Once you have copied the contents of the key, then just do a Ctrl+Shift+V. And once you have pasted it, just press escape and :WQ. That's it. And now you have to change the permission of the file. So chmod 400 ec2-key.pem. That's it. So just now we saw how we can create our Ansible master and the target nodes. But in real time, you may not be working with only 2 or 3 servers, isn't it? You will be dealing with different services and a huge number of instances at once. So for that, we won't sit and type each command and wait for it to happen. We will have to improvise, isn't it? So if you see here, we might have instances which belong to the web service deployment and a few other for the database. The configurations will be different for both in most of the cases. But we need to automate them in such a way that all the tasks that are targeted to be performed in the web servers should be a part of the list. And the same goes with the database servers as well. So imagine that your inventory looks like this. So this is how the DevOps inventory might look like if you're using Excel sheets to keep track of the instances. So if you see here, we have target 1, target 2 and target 5 with web servers and other 2 as a part of the DB with different connection types, and some using passwords and others using SSH key. And the benefit of using an inventory file is that you can keep all the targets that you have under one roof, that is under one file, and execute them as per your need. Same way we can see here, if you see the inventory file that we have, inside which we have categorized the targets with a definition within the square brackets that you see. If you have used INI files before, you might be aware of this syntax which we use to write the configuration files. So here we have the web servers where we have target a.hello.com and target d.hello.com, and for DB servers we have target c.hello.com and target f.hello.com. And if you want to perform any operation or ping to targets at web server, then what you can do is you can just type this command by giving the tag name. Let's suppose we have here Ansible space web servers, that is the tag name, -m, that is the module name, so that is ping that we are going to use to ping the devices, -i, the inventory file name or the path of the inventory file. And the same goes for the DB servers as well. And if suppose you want to perform any tasks that are common for both, then what can I do? I can just keep a separate tag with a different name called common or anything that you want and add all the servers to that list. So I can perform each operation based on my tag and my inventory file, which will point to specific servers intended in the tag name. So let's suppose I want to perform anything specific to web servers. I can give the tag name as web servers, and if I specify the inventory file, it will go to that particular inventory file and check all the servers name listed under that tag name, and it will execute the operations on those particular servers itself and not on others. I hope you got the point. So once we have this, what we have to do is we have to create an inventory file. So just like the way I showed you here on the way we can create the inventory files and we can store the data as a part of the inventory system that we have. So the same thing we'll do for the targets that we have created. So we will make sure we have the host name, we have the IP address, we have the username, the connection type that we want, and the key from which we can connect to. Okay, so that is what we will create in the part of the inventory file, and I'll show you how you can create one for yourself. So let's go back and create the inventory file. So go to the terminal once again, and just do ls here. So here we have ec2-key.pem file, but if I want to create an inventory file, I just need to do a vim and inventory. So this is the file name that I want to give. Then just create a text file, inventory.txt, and press enter. And this is the blank slate that we have. Here is the place where we can create the inventory file. So I'll just press I, which will give me the insert mode. And here I'll write my inventory details. So the first one that I have is in Ansible -target -1. So this is my target one. The host name, paste Ansible-host is equal to. So here I need to paste the IP address of my host name that is for the target one. So I'll go back and I'll copy the target one host name. So this is the public IP address that I have. I'll just copy this and I'll just paste it. And the same way, I'll just type the connection method. So Ansible hyphen connection which is equal to SSH and space Ansible underscore user is equal to EC2-user. And the same way, what I can do is I can just copy this and I can just paste it again. And I can change the IP address that I have for the target 2. I'll just copy the public IP address of the target 2. And I'll just paste it here. And I'll change the name of the host name as well. And you can just click on escape. Okay, so once we have created the inventory, what we can do is we can just type Ansible space Ansible-target-1 -m ping. So that is the ping module that we have. So -m, we can provide the parameter for the module that we want. So basically we want to ping to the particular instance. So I can just type -m space ping -i. This is basically the extension to provide the inventory file name. So my inventory file name is inventory.txt, and I can just press enter. So here it is asking that. So here there is a problem that we are not able to connect to the instance because the permission is denied. So you remember that we added the key here, but we have not assigned it to the SSH agent. So that is one of the things that you need to remember. Only copying the key here is not sufficient. You have to add it to the SSH agent as well. So for that, your command is SSH-agent space bash. And what you need to do here, you need to just copy this file that you have, copy EC2 to this path ssh.ssh, and then what you need to do is ssh-add, you need to add it, the path that we have .ssh/ec2-key. So we need to add that to the SSH agent, then just press enter. So once you have successfully added it, you will get the message here, identity added, and that is basically your key. Okay, so once you have done this, you can just again type the command, isn't it? I'll just copy this once again and I'll just paste it and just press enter. So now you are able to connect to this one. So here we have resolved one issue, that is for the permission denied issue, that is basically for your EC2 key or the connection key or the SSH key. And next one, what we need to do is we need to connect to other instances, isn't it? So target 2. So let's connect to that. Just change this to 2, from 1 to 2, then just press enter. So the problem here is it is always trying to connect using a manual intervention. So if I just press no, it will not be able to connect because the host key verification has failed. So here the problem is that there is a setting that you need to make. Either you can do a export of Ansible to false. You can make this as false. So this is one thing that you can do. Or else what you can do is you can just you can do a cat. I'll just show you one path that you have for the Ansible. So /etc/ansible/ansible.cfg. So you can just go there, and here you will have an entry as well. This entry, uncommenting this will disable sh host key checking. So this you can disable it as well. So what we're going to do, we are just going to disable this in the configuration file. So I'll just do a vim, but as you need to do a sudo vim here, don't worry, this needs some, just come down here, and what you can do is you can just press I and go to the insert mode, and you can just delete this hash. Now just click on escape and :WQ. That's it. Try running your command once again. Yes, it is successfully connected. But the most important thing that we wanted to do was having to work on multiple machines at the same time, isn't it? And just now, as we already discussed, we'll do some changes to the inventory file, and we'll see the same being done here as well. So vim inventory.txt, what I can do is I can just give a name here. So this will be my servers. Okay, I'll just give this a name of servers. Let's see if you are able to execute the ping command on both of them by using this tag name. Just press on escape and just :WQ and just save it. Make some changes to the command. So here what I'm going to do, I'm just going to specify the tag name. So what is the tag name that we have? Servers, isn't it? So we'll just type servers and we'll just hit enter. Yes, you can see we are able to connect to both the instances at once. And the same way, even if you mention like 50 servers or anything, and that is pretty interesting and pretty amazing, isn't it? The way we are able to automate things. And that is what we have learned now. And I want you to practice on this one and try as many hit and trials as you want. And if you have any doubts or if you are facing any problems, then you can put them in the comment section below as well. So mostly the problem I think people might face is due to the connection issues. So if you face that, or if you are not able to install Ansible or anything that you have, so any problems regarding that as well, you can post them in the comment section below and we can discuss further on them. And I'm sure that others who have found a resolution for your issue, they will be also able to help you. And there is a lot in today's session for us to cover, so sit back, relax, and let's begin now. And today's session we will be learning what is YAML and how we can simplify the learning process so that we can understand this concept better. And we'll also look at what are the better options that we have for the IDEs available for us for writing YAML files or YAML scripts. So the playbooks that we write in Ansible are a combination of tasks that we want to accomplish or execute on the servers or the virtual machines. But the playbook itself is a written set of instructions, isn't it? And we write a playbook with YAML. So YAML is the whole identity of your playbook, as every language or script has a file name or an extension, YAML also has its extension as YML, as YML or YAML. Can be executed across multiple servers with the help of the inventory file, like what we saw in the last episode as well. So remember that the extension for the YAML files will be YML or YAML, and we pronounce it as YAML. So let's move on then. So now let's understand how we can use YAML. For that, we need to understand Jenny's perfect cup of coffee once again. So to make her coffee, she needs the raw ingredients and the predefined steps like grinding, boiling, filtering, etc. And all these have a perfect sense of becoming a type of data structure, like a list or a dictionary. So for now, keep your mind totally away from all the programming languages and computational terms. Just imagine now that we have come here for shopping. And for that, we need a list of ingredients, isn't it? So here we have a raw materials list. In our list, we have coffee, flavoring, milk, water, and sugar. And we have a key and a value mapping of our ingredients and the brands that we need to purchase. So these type of data structures are called dictionaries, isn't it? So in a dictionary, remember that you will have a key that will hold a specific value. Here we have a specific brand attached to each of the ingredients, as you can see here. Like coffee has peats, we are going for a flavor that is hazelnut, and we are going for milk that is a brand of Dean's, and we're going to have a normal water, and the sugar brand that we have here is Domino. And then once we have the list of ingredients, we have another list with the procedure or steps, or what we call as processes. So that is a process list. So we have grinding, pressing, boiling, filtering, mixing, etc. So these form a list of process. And when we combine all these data sets, we now get the actual pseudo steps for making the coffee. And now we have a combined data set of a single dictionary of process. That becomes a list of process. So when you think of computation, we have to remember that a list is a combination of heterogeneous elements. So it could be a combination of strings or integers, or it could be both of them. And a dictionary is a key value pair where we have an index field which we call as key, which holds a specific value. So remember this very carefully. So here you can see the raw materials is a type of list, and the process is also a list, but here the raw materials and brand become a dictionary, and the key that you have for coffee will be holding a value with the brand name. And similarly, this will be a key, and this will be a list of values, and this process will be another key, and these will be at the list of values. And similar to that, when it comes to grinding, it will be a dictionary attached to a particular key, which will have a nested dictionary where coffee will be one of the keys and peats will be one of the values. And similar to that, we have boiling and mixing. So if you see, we have the list, which is raw materials, and raw materials is our key. So as you can see, the raw materials that you see here is our key, and the values that you see here become the list of values. And if you have already used JSON before, which is JavaScript object notation, and it's more like a dictionary, and a list in JSON is basically represented or enclosed with square brackets. So if you see here, we have the square brackets within which we have the list of values like coffee, flavor, milk, water, sugar. And the way we represent it in YAML is basically you will have the key, but instead of a square bracket, here the list will be represented by a hyphen. So any item that has a hyphen will be enclosed within the key and will be formed as a list. And I can show you an example of this as well, where we can watch the real-time conversion of a JSON to YAML, and you will see how a dictionary type is represented in YAML as well. So there are a lot of sites that you can go and visit, check how we can convert the JSON structure to YAML, and you can experiment them yourself as well. So this is one of the sites called JSON2YAML.com. Here, if I just paste the raw material dictionary that I had, and when it gets converted to YAML, you can see this is the key and this becomes the value. And this is basically a list of values. Add a hyphen and I can just add another ingredient. Suppose I want to add cream. So now the cream actually gets added as a value in the list of values that we already have. If I want to remove these two, I can just remove them and they will get removed in the JSON as well. So this is how you represent a YAML structure. Okay, and remember that the spacing and indentation is very important, and that is what we will discuss next. And similarly, we have another list called process, where we have the grinding, pressing, boiling, filtering and mixing. And same way, we have a dictionary where we have a key as a process and the list of processes. And here as well, we can see the YAML representation states it as process as a key, and these are the values which are represented with hyphen. Next off, if we want to have a bigger and better data structure here, so as we already know the example that we have seen before, like we have the ingredient, process, grinding, boiling, mixing, and these have the nested dictionaries as well. So these become a whole data structure. And this is the data structure that we have. So we have the ingredients key, which has the list of values, process, which has the list of values for processes. And then we have the grinding, which I already told you will be a dictionary, which has coffee as the key and peats as a value. So this becomes a nested dictionary for us. And here as well, you have mixing, as a key and which has a dictionary, and milk becomes the key and true is the value. Suppose I want to have milk but I don't want to have sugar, then I can disable the field by using a Boolean value such as false. And what is the number of cups that I want? I want 1, so I can make a coffee based on the desired value. As you can see here, we have the list which is represented by hyphen, but when it comes to nested dictionaries, you have to remember that you have the key here, and the next key also will start with a proper indentation, but there will be no hyphen because this is not a list. This is a nested dictionary. So once you have added the first key, then you just need to go to the next line, add a space, then you can just give the key name as coffee. Same way we have colon here, you can add the colon and add the value for yourself. And we can see this in the YAML converter as well. So let's go there and check that out. So I've just copied the values we had and I'll just paste it. So as you can see here, this dictionary, it has been converted where the list of values have been represented by hyphen, and here where we had the nested dictionary, it is being represented by the key, and the key again starts here, and this is the value, and this whole thing becomes a nested dictionary. Okay, so if suppose I want to add another key here, I can just add it like hello colon anything, any value. Okay, so this is how you add it. So if suppose I want to remove anything, then I can just delete it, convert it to a JSON, and it should be a perfect JSON. Then only you will get to know that yes, your YAML is properly validated. You already have some websites that can help you validate your YAML, but your YAML should be a perfect representation of the JSON structure. But that doesn't guarantee that it will be perfect in the sense of execution, because there may be indentation errors which might hamper and which might cause a rift in the way the JSON structure is represented, in which the JSON structure is represented. So we will check that next. As I told you before, that we will be understanding why the spacing and indentation is very important for us in YAML. So let's suppose we have this ingredient and we want these 3 to be the list of values, isn't it? So I'll just expand this. So these 3 are my list of values. So coffee, flavor and milk are the ingredients. And here as you can see milk has 3 independent values, which makes milk the dictionary or another dictionary within the list, and which has Domino's, that's the brand, and the low fat category, and it is toned. Okay, so these are 3 properties of milk, not the ingredient itself. So that is why we have ingredients as the main key, and these 3 are the list of values within which we have another milk which becomes the key here, and basically which has 3 values in its own list. So let's suppose I will show you this in the YAML converter as well, and you can see that very easily as well. So let's suppose I paste it here. So as you can see here, this ingredient has 3 values, 1, 2 and 3. So this is one of the values, this is the second value, and this is the third value, which becomes the key for us because this becomes a nested dictionary within itself. So here there can be chances where you have messed up with the indentation here. So this blank space that you see should be common for 3 of them. Otherwise there will be a lot of problem. We'll see why. So let's suppose you messed up with the indentation and you did not provide any spaces here. So what happened is the toned value that was already present here got shifted to ingredients, but toned is not a value that should be present in ingredients, isn't it? That is the main reason why indentation is very important for us. See, if we missed out on giving a space here, the value that should be present under milk went directly under the ingredients. And this is just a funny way of representing an example, but if suppose that is a very huge configuration, then you will be cracking your head because you will not be able to find the exact error, because that will not show as a part of the error itself, because that is a perfectly fine YAML, but it does not represent the actual configuration, isn't it? So let's take this example and we'll paste it here. So if you see here now, what happened is the value that was toned, that was inside milk in the part of the list of milk, the metadata for the milk, is now outside of that and has become a part of ingredient. It will get inside the list. And this is the dictionary that I want. Now let's suppose I just remove these two spaces as well. So now what happened is these two values that were a part of the list inside milk are now a part of the ingredients list, which is not the perfect configuration for us. So we have to be very clear and very careful about the spacing and indentation, isn't it? That is what we saw right now. And similarly, you can have Boolean values, as I already showed you before. So you can have yes or no, and you can have a true or all caps true or false. And these are the Boolean values that you can use. And there are two ways that YAML tells us that we can use the multiple lines. So the first one is literal block scalar. So in literal block scalar, what happens is it preserves the integrity of the \n or the new line. But in folded block scalar, you don't have it. It will just consider this as a single line. If you don't believe me, let's go ahead and see that example as well. So here actually it is trying to preserve the /n. This is called literal block scalar. And when it comes to folded block scalar, here it does not preserve the \n or the new line. As you can see, there are no new lines that have been preserved here. So that is the main difference. So the literal block scalar will be represented by the pipe symbol, as you can see here. And the folded block scalar will be represented by the greater than symbol. The next one is also very important, the comment section. So just like Python, you can place a hash and you can write the comments as well. If I go back and if I have to write a comment here, I can just add a comment like by giving a hash, then space, hello world comment. So this is the way I can add a comment as well. And just like strings, we can make use of quotes. In the double quotes, you can use escapes or escape characters like /s/d. And there is a list of allowed escapes that can be found in the YAML specification for 1.1 and 1.2. So as you can see here, we have the sample text hello /t, hello within the single quotes, and this is within the double quotes. So if you want to see the difference, so as you can see, once it is converted to JSON, you can see it is carefully accepting the escape character. So whenever you are planning to use a escape character, then make sure that you have your strings enclosed within double quotes. So if you have used Angular or JavaScript or any templating languages, you might be very well aware of this. So the example that you see here, the description, the file belongs to variable which is enclosed within double curly braces and user. So this value, that variable that you see here, will be replaced in the runtime. So let's suppose you want to assign a username to this. So when you're printing this, line, what happens here is you will get like this file belongs to XYZ user. So that will be replaced in the runtime itself. So this variable that you see here, you can assign the value of a username and it will be dynamically populated during the runtime of your playbook. Handy, isn't it? And you can also create a dictionary within YAML with this syntax as well. So this syntax as well. In YAML, if the value actually starts with a single curly bracket or a single curly brace and has a key and ends with a curly brace, it actually represents itself as a dictionary. So if you want to test it out also, we can do that. So if you see, if I printed it here, if I pasted it here, so this becomes the key for the YAML code, and here this becomes the key and this becomes the value. So whenever it starts with a simple curly brace, anything after this which has a colon becomes the key and this becomes the value. And you might think, what if there is a space in between the characters? So if I do a world space hello, then the world space hello actually becomes the key of the dictionary. And what if we have blank spaces, or what if we have special characters? So it gets rejected basically because we don't have any quotes here. So let's suppose if I want to give quotes here, can I give it? So remember that very carefully. So don't get confused when you have anything regarding this. Okay. So I hope you got a very brief idea on how we can use YAML. And this is not the session where we are going to discuss about how we can create playbooks. I just wanted to make a short session on how we can use YAML, and that is what we will be using to create the playbook. So it will be easy for users who don't have that much of exposure to YAML, so that they can also learn it, they can also practice it. And when we move on to the critical stuff like creating playbooks, it will be way easier for them as well. The Atom IDE from here. So I'm currently using Windows. So if you're using any other operating system, then you will be able to install it for your operating system as well. So here you can see we have the Windows 64-bit for Windows 7 or later, and there's the download button. So what we do when we see the download button, we click it, isn't it? So just click on this and just save it. So once you've downloaded this, just click on this and open it. It's as simple as it can get. So just once you've opened it, let's wait for some time for it to open. Yeah, so Atom is currently being installed. It will launch once it is done. So once you've installed Atom, this is the basic first screen that you will see. You can just close the unnecessary guidelines that you have. Welcome guide. So there's a welcome page. I don't need anything. So you have add folders and reopen a project. So currently I'm not going to do anything because I don't have any current projects right now. So this is the basic ID that we have. If you want to create any file, you can just click on new file. And so let's suppose I have this ingredients with me or the text with me that I want to add as a part of the YAML script. So I can just copy this and I can paste it and I can just save it. I can save it to my folder here. So this will be my test.yaml and I can just save it. So this is my YAML file. If you want to install additional packages, what you can do is you can just go to file, then go to settings. Here you have install. You can just click on this and you can search for packages. So if I want to install anything specific to YAML, what I can just do is I can search for that. So here it actually gives me a lot of options to install plugins for YAML as well. So let's suppose this is one of the very popular YAML IDE plugins. So I can use it. So Atom IDE support for YAML language. So I can just click on install here and I can install this as well. So now it has installed right now. So there's one more thing that I wanted to install, that was linter.js YAML. So for the indentation and validation. So what I can do is I can just install this. It's very simple to install plugins in Atom because you have to just click one button to install a plugin. So I don't think so there'll be a problem here for you. So linter.js YAML needs to install dependencies, linter. So install dependency, yes. Okay, I'll disable the diagnostic and I'll go back to the script once again. What is saying unexpected error? So YAML lint is not installed. So if you don't have a YAML lint, what you can do is you can just install pip install YAML lint. That's it. See, now it is perfectly running right now. So if suppose you get that error, what you need to do is you just need to install YAML lint using a pip command for your Python build that you have. So here what you can see here, that this actually gives us a lot of flexibility when you're writing playbooks. That may be a gruesome task for you to actually remember all the indentation and things. So this will actually help you to correct your indentations and actually perform your coding actually really better. So the document actually needs to start with hyphen hyphen hyphen. So what I can do is I can just add hyphen 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 and just save it. And yeah, column starts greater than line. Okay, indentation is 2, but we found 0. So what we can do is we can just provide 2 indentations for everything. And just save it. Yeah. So now this is corrected. And this also needs a indentation. So yeah, now the only error that we have is wrong new line character, expected /n. Yeah, this should be fine right now. I think there was some error, so I think that's fine now. So we have corrected all the errors that we have. So that is the basic idea of using an IDE and using the plugins that are very helpful for us to minimize the workload that we already have, that we are already going to do. So just go to settings and click on install and install the plugin that you want. And if suppose you want to revisit all the plugins that you have installed, you can just go to packages and you can see what all you have installed. So I have just installed IDE YAML and Atom IDE UI and linter.js. So this linter.js actually will tell me what are the mistakes that I'm making. So that will be very handy for you as well. So I thought this will be a very good session for us to actually reflect upon what is the IDE that we are going to use for our series. So Atom is the IDE that I'm going to use. So let's suppose you want to use it, then you can use it as well. Or else if you want to use Sublime Text, your wish, you can use it. Or else if you want to use PyCharm, or if you want to use Visual Studio Code, it's up to you. Whatever floats your boat, you can use them. Okay. And in today's session, we are going to discuss about a very important concept, that is Ansible modules. So we'll talk about what is an Ansible module, why do we need to use Ansible modules, what are the important modules that we must learn, and understanding how to use an existing module. All the timelines are given in the description below. So before telling you what is an Ansible module, I just want to tell you that the main use of Ansible is to automate execution steps, installing applications, copying scripts, executing commands, and a lot more. So in order to do this, you need a mechanism which can help you with the configuration that you can use to achieve the desired automation that you want. For that, Ansible provides you with plugins or libraries that you can use to get your job done. And that is what is called your modules. You can make use of the existing modules that are already available in Ansible, and yes, you can create your own modules or own custom modules as well using Ansible. So modules that are referred to as task plugins or library plugins are discrete unit of code. Remember this, discrete units of code that can be used from the command line or in a playbook task. Discrete in the sense each piece of code is able to perform a function for you so that you get your automation in place. And Ansible executes each module on the remote target node. It may be one or hundreds of nodes or thousands of nodes. It depends on your requirement, but it executes each module on the remote target. And it collects return values, which is the standard output or error. Let's take this example here. Ansible pattern goes here, -m, module name, -a, the arguments. So the pattern could be your host details that you add in /etc Ansible hosts, and -m is where you specify the module name that you want to use. And then for the arguments, you use a -a and then you pass the arguments. So a pattern usually refers to a set of groups, which are set of hosts. In the above case that we see here, it's the collection of hosts that we have as a part of the web servers group. So let's suppose you want to restart the Apache HTTPD service. In all cases, for that, our Ansible command or CLI command will be Ansible space web servers, that is our pattern, -m service. So service is our module name, and -a, the argument, which is name equals HTTPD, states equal to restarted or state equal to restarted. And what this does is that it executes this CLI operation on all the hosts present in the web server's host list. So as you can see, I've already mentioned a pattern usually refers to a set of groups, which are sets of hosts. In our case, the machines that you see here are a part of the group of web servers. Let's see another example, that is point B, Ansible web servers -m space ping. Here we are doing a ping operation on the hosts in web servers host group. So we are using the ping module here. Let's see another example, that is point C. So Ansible space web servers -m command -a, the operation that we want to perform, that is rebooting the particular instance. So here, as you can see, we have the web servers at the pattern, that is the host group, and -m command. So command is our module name, and -a is where we pass the argument. So here we are executing a command on our remote host to reboot that host. So to execute a command on the host machine, we are making use of the command module. There is another module called shell, which you can also use to execute your commands, but we will discuss on that in a bit. Talking about arguments. So arguments, remember these points very carefully. So most modules take key equals to value arguments or space delimited, and some modules take no argument, and command or shell module simply take the string of the command you want to run. So as you can see in the point C, the command module takes a string that is basically your command to execute it on the host. So imagine this use case right now. If you had to deploy the service or web application server on 50 hosts and you are using Ansible to do that, this becomes very easy because you can do that using a single playbook. You make the list of hosts as a part of your host group, and you write your playbook, or else you can execute simple commands as we saw to all the hosts at once. So the same steps can be replicated over several servers with the same configuration. Remember one thing, Ansible actually executes each task on all the hosts and then moves to the next task. So you have to be precise on the way your playbook is written. So if you see here, the stop monitoring task will be executed on all the hosts, then it will move to the remove from load balancer and it will execute it all the hosts, and then it will move to the third step, then to the fourth step, then it will go to the last step. So it is not that it will execute all the step on one host and that will move to the next one. It executes the operation sequentially on all the hosts. Now let's see some of the conversions from the CLI to the playbook style. So playbook style, it means that YAML format. So forgive me for saying all these junky stuff, but yeah, the first point A that you see here. So Ansible web servers -m service -a, name equals httpd, state equals restarted. So if you want to write it on the playbook, it will be written using YAML. So the syntax would be, so you give -name and you give the name of the task that you want to perform. So that is restart web server. That is not by Ansible. You can give any name to this one, but you have to be able to recognize this once the playbook runs. So please make sure that you give a very recognizable string there. And then you give the command name, that is service, that we already know. And then you provide your arguments that are name and state. So name and state are the default properties that you have to give, and you have to provide the name of the service and the state of the particular service that you want to see. Service is the module name. The service name that you want to restart is httpd, or it can be nginx or any service that you want. And state is a variable that you want the state to change to. So if it restarts, it will return true. The second point B, Ansible web servers -m command -a and the string to reboot it. So there are multiple ways to do this. The first one is giving the name, reboot the servers. Then you can provide action : the module name, and you can provide the string of the command that you want to execute. Here action that you see works in conjunction with a module. So it has action : module options format, but it is recommended that you use the more conventional module : option format. So remember that very carefully. So like the one we have below here. So name equals the name of the string that you want to give, and the command, that is the module : the string that you want to provide. So this is also a very simple way to do this, and there are two ways. So you can choose whatever you want, but it depends on the recommendation that Ansible provides. So the second one is the option that Ansible actually recommends. So make sure that you use that. So if you were thinking, oh, what modules will Ansible provide? Just imagine the quantity of Ansible modules that we have here. So these are the modules that Ansible provides, and these are just high-level modules. And within each modules, we have an individual module that you can make use of. Imagine having most of the plugins available to you for your automation. That's just awesome, isn't it? And that is why Ansible is so popular, because it has a very good documentation and it has all the modules that you need for the most highly used CI/CD operations. So it is a very good tool to use. So we have the cloud modules, we have the crypto module, we have the very famous clustering module as well, where you can use Kubernetes, and we have the command module, which most of the people use in general in their daily work as well. And we have the network module, we have the messaging module, and we have the web infrastructure module as well. You have the utilities module, you have the notification module, and there are a lot many more of these modules that you can use. So let's see some of the modules. First, let's start with the cloud modules. So Ansible provides cloud modules that can help you to create infrastructure like provisioning hosts, installing applications, hosting cloud services on multiple cloud platforms. For example, our very favorite AWS. So here we have a playbook which helps us to create the EC2 instance. Another one is to integrate EC2 with CloudWatch. So we can enable monitoring as well using this. And we have a few cloud platforms that I have mentioned that Ansible provides modules for that you can use. So there is Alibaba Cloud, you have AWS, you have Atomic, you have Heroku, you have Azure, you have Google, you have Rackspace, and much more. And you can go to the link that I have provided in the documentation below, like docs.ansible.com, and you can just search modules by category, and you can see all these documentations as well. So the next one is, if you wish to use Ansible for container deployment using Kubernetes, you can do that as well. So you can perform all operations like creating namespace, creating a deployment file, service file, persistent volume provisioning in Kubernetes using Ansible. Now let's take a module and discuss how you can make use of it and how you should read the documentation. Each module that you have seen have their own individual modules. that you can make use of in your Ansible command or configuration that you write as a part of your playbook. One of those modules that is most frequently used is the command module. If you want to learn more about modules, please visit the link that I have provided below so that you get more information about the different modules that we have used here. Here we have 7 modules within the command modules, and these are the ones that we might be using more frequently in our daily work. So understand these very carefully or very clearly. The first one that you have is the command module. So command module takes the command name followed by a list of space delimited arguments. That command will be executed on all the selected nodes. So next one is expect module that executes a command and it will wait for the prompt to execute the information provided. So it's like, let's suppose the prompt might ask you for the password. So you can respond to that using the expect module. The next one is PSEXEC or partial execution. So it runs a remote command from a Linux host to a Windows host without WinRM being set up. So you can execute remote commands or partial commands using the Linux host to your Windows host. The fourth one is raw. You can run dirty SSH commands using the module. And let's suppose the host isn't having Python installed. You can write a raw command to install that using a single CLI command. The fifth one is script. So this is very important. Let's suppose you want to execute shell script or Python file or any script. You can do that using the script module. Just that you need to provide the path of the script. The sixth one that we have here is shell. So shell is similar to command module but runs the command through a shell, or that is /bin/sh on the remote node, whereas the command module actually bypasses the shell. For remote targets, we use the win_shell module instead. The last one is telnet. It executes a low, down and dirty telnet command, not going through the module subsystem. So what does it mean is that when you want to log into routers and if you want to run show commands, you can make use of this telnet module. You can provide the username and password and wait for the prompt as well. So that is what we generally do using the telnet commands, isn't it? If you don't have SH, you do telnet. And once you have the telnet access, you just install SH onto that and then you make use of SSH. So these are some of the things that you can do with the telnet command as well. But before that, we can just take a step back. And I just want to tell you that if you want to perform any operation, you need modules. But how will you use them? It's not that all the modules are the same. So they will have different parameters, different syntax to be configured, isn't it? So when you go through the documentation for the modules, you must understand 3 things. First, the example set or the example playbook. The second thing is command parameters. The third one is return values. So the command parameters are the scope defined which you will use to perform operations within a particular module. So let's suppose you want to change the directory, you can use a chdr. And if you want to see next to chdr, it has mentioned the type of the input that it needs, that is the path. So you need to provide a path here. So let's suppose you want to execute a command, you can make use of cmd, which takes a string as a parameter. The same way, we have the return values. So command parameter here returns the list of commands executed. So let's suppose you provide yum install nginx. So it will return the list yum, install, nginx. So it will return a list to you. So for you, the most important thing is you need to remember or you need to read them in the documentation before using them in your code. So remember command parameters and return values. So if you see the parameters here, the same will be available for you in the documentation and you can use one of these parameters along with the module that you have. So let's suppose we have command here, we are trying to execute the command here. So this is basically our cmd. It will take, so here we are not using cmd, but if I want to use a parameter, I can type the command or the module here, then I can use the parameter, that will be my cmd, and I can provide the string that I want to execute. And the second thing that you see here, creates, and it has given the path. So what it does is the file name or global path, if it already exists, this step won't be run. So let's suppose you have a condition where when you execute this make_database.sh, this creates the path to database. So if the condition is that if this path has already been created, you don't need to execute it once again, because sometimes when you execute an operation multiple times, it can have negative impact on the environment that you have. So you don't want to do that, isn't it? So to make this clear for the command that it should not execute this once again, you can just provide a creates here, and if suppose this path is being created when it executes the command for the first time, you don't need to run it. So similarly, you have to read through all these things, all the parameters that you want to have, and you can read the comments here to get more information about what it exactly does, and you have to make the choice of whether you're going to use it or not. So now let's take a look at the command module. So remember, the command module takes the command name followed by a list of space delimited arguments, and you can use it in the CLI or in the playbook. And the command will be executed on all the nodes that are a part of the host group. And there are two ways here to execute the commands. You can use either a freeform command, or you can make use of the command parameter or CMD parameter that I told you before. So if you want to execute on Windows targets, we make use of the win_command module instead. So rather than command, we will use win_command. So as you can see, if I have to execute this, I can write it in a playbook, my playbook.yaml. And based on all the host groups that I have, like system A, system B, system C, system D, if I am trying to execute it from my master, Ansible master, it will get executed on all the nodes. The next one is expect module. So the expect module executes a command and responds to prompts, as we discussed before. So as you know, Ansible is built on Python. We will need to have additional packages like pexpect as the prerequisite. So you have to have Python that is greater than 2.6 and pexpect module that has a version 3.3 or more. So here we are dealing with a prompt by using the response parameter. So here you are expecting the response to be a password as per the string that is mentioned here. Or else you can use the same to respond to multiple choices of the prompts using just like a switch case. The next one, third one, is when you might have a requirement for executing commands remotely on a Windows machine. So mostly we might make use of SMB or WinRM to do this, but let's suppose the host does not have these installed. We can make use of the PSEXEC module, that is more like partial execution module. So it is dependent on the modules PYPSEXEC and SMB protocol to be installed on the master, not on the host. Remember, that is should be installed on the master so that Ansible can perform the execution. So to connect to a Windows host, what do we need? So for us to connect to the remote machine, we need the connection parameters, isn't it? So it will be the host name, it will be the connection username, it will be the connection password, it will be executable on what we are trying to execute it. So for us, it will be partial.exe, and what are the arguments that we want to execute. So write host hello world. So that is what we are going to perform here. So here, once you run the partial.exe, you pass the argument that is write host hello world, which is to be executed. And if you wish to run it asynchronously, then you can use the asynchronous value as true or yes. So here, if you see, asynchronous is one of the parameters, connection password is one of the parameters, connection timeout is there, connection username is there, executable is there that we have used here, and the host name as well. So what does asynchronous do? So we'll run the command as a detached process, and the module returns immediately after starting the process while the process continues to run in the background. So if suppose it is going to take a long amount of time, or it is going to take a huge amount of time, then you can just make it asynchronous so that your callback just returns back once it has executed the command, and the process that you want to execute will still continue running in the background. So next up is raw. So it executes a low, down, and dirty sh command, not going through the module subsystem. So what Ansible tells us is that this should only be done in two cases. So first case is when you're trying to install simple JSON on older hosts that it needs as a dependency or to run modules. So as all the core modules actually need it, you have to install it. So if that is one of the requirements, then you can use this raw module. And the second one is that if you're speaking to any device such as routers that do not have Python installed, then you can do that as well. In any other case, using the shell or command module is more appropriate. So let's suppose you're bootstrapping your machine with Python. You can just write the command as a string and raw, and it will run directly through the configured remote shell. And you can change the shell used to execute the command as well. So you can provide an absolute path to the executable as a parameter like /bin/sh or /bin/bash, and run the commands using that. The next one is also very important, which is script. So script module helps you to run a local script on a remote node after transferring it. So what it does is that it will copy it to a remote temporary location, and it will execute the shell script on the host machine. So the script module takes the script name followed by a list of space delimited arguments. So if your script needs some parameters, you can provide them using the argument list that you have. So this module is also supported for Windows target, so you can use it for Windows machines as well. So if I have to put it in very simple terms, if you wish to execute a shell script, just use this module. So you can define the script module, and we have the command parameter as well. So you can assign the command parameter and you can assign the path of the shell script, and you can provide some arguments as well. So if you see, the parameter actually creates the created file.txt. So what it means is that once the shell script executes, it will create this file, and the next time it executes the same command in the playbook, and if that file already exists on that path, it will not rerun this command. So as I told you before about the database example, so there's the same way that happens when you use creates. So last but not the least, telnet. So as I already told you before, if you wish to telnet to a device and you want to simulate the prompt and execute commands based on the response behavior, you can make use of the telnet module. So it executes a low down and dirty telnet command, not going through the module subsystem that we already know. So this is mostly to be used for enabling SSH on devices that only have telnet enabled by default. So let's see an example here for sending commands to Cisco iOS devices. This takes me back to my old Cisco days, but let's just come back to 2021 once again. So name equals to the send configuration commands to iOS. So this is the string. So we have a telnet command that we are using. So telnet module. So within which we have parameters like user, password, login prompt, and password prompt. So you can pass the username here in the user argument or parameter. You can pass the password here in the password parameter. Login prompt is basically, that is what you're expecting from the login prompt, where it'll ask for you for the username. So this is what you are expecting from the device. So it'll ask you like this: username colon, it'll be the string, and for password it'll ask you like this: pass colon. So it can be different based on the device that you have. So once you've logged in, you are expecting this prompt, and this is the most important thing for us to get, because if you don't get this prompt, you will not be able to execute iOS commands or show commands. So once you have done this, you have one more argument called or one more parameter, sorry, you can use command, and that you can pass the list of commands that you want. So terminal length 0, I'm not sure how many of you know this, but this is something that will extend the terminal length so that you get all the output at once. So it will not give you that more option below, so that you have to click enter to get more data. So it will give you the whole list of output that you want. And you have configure terminal, where you can configure the terminal, and host name iOS. This is one of the command. So you can execute these three things, or depending on your use case, you can execute hundreds of commands onto that machine. So make sure that you read the parameters list here, and you should also read the comments here, so that you know what exactly is the use for this one, so that it will be very easy for you to consume this. Hello everyone, and in today's session we'll do a small hands-on demo for Ansible modules. So imagine you get the task to install Nginx or set up Nginx on 50 machines. So as we are working with Ansible, we are quite sure this can be automated, isn't it? So let's see our test bench here. First things first, we have our Ansible master, and we have 2 hosts in our host group. And these machines are basically your Amazon Linux 2 instances. And if you haven't seen the session where I've explained about how you can set up Ansible or how you can install Ansible and set up your testing environment, click on the link in the description, or else you have a link on the top right corner now. So watch that video before moving forward. So having said that, the next step is to write the playbook, obviously, which will have the following tasks. So install the latest version of Nginx, start Nginx, enable Nginx, ensure that Nginx is at the latest version by gripping the value of the version right now, and get status of the Nginx service installed. And all these steps will be executed on the 2 hosts which are a part of the host group. So let's start with our playbook. So when you think of installing Nginx on Amazon Linux 2 instances, if I'm going to use a basic shell script, it would be looking like yum update -y. I'll use Amazon Linux extras, install Nginx 1.2. This is one of the versions that I'll install. And Nginx-v is the command to grab the value of the current installed version. And systemctl start Nginx, which will start the Nginx service, and this will enable it. So this is the basic SSH or shell script. So if I have to do this in Ansible, I have to use modules and I have to write a playbook for this, isn't it? So that is what we are going to do today. So this is the Atom IDE that I'm going to use, as I've already explained to you before that why is it very good. I have already shown you the setup of Atom for using Ansible, so you can check that video. That's the 4th video in this series, so please make sure that you check that out. The first thing that we want is we need to write a comment. So it will be install Nginx using Ansible. Then the first thing that I want to do is I want to give a name for this task. So name is equal to or colon setup Nginx server on my server list. So this is my host group. So the next step is to give the host details. So hosts will be my server. So this will be my pattern name, and this will be the host group ID as well. But in order to execute the commands, we need to escalate the privileges, elevate the privileges as well. So we'll type become equal to true, and then we'll define the tasks. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off with my first task. I'll give it a name. So that will be install the latest version of Nginx. And this will take a command module. So the command will be the one that I already showed you, Amazon -Linux -extras install Nginx 1.12 equals latest -y. So -y, what it does is it allows the prompt to download or install the components that you have without giving the prompt. So whether it will ask you to download or install, it will ask you some prompt whether you have to type in y or no. So that will be done automatically for you. So once you're given the command, I'll just pass an argument value where I will be telling Ansible that whenever you install Nginx, it is going to create a path on the machine that I'm going to install Nginx on. And if that already exists, then don't reiterate or don't rerun this command once again. So this is the first task that we have completed. So the next task is to start the service. So same way, I'll use not command this time. There is one more module, service, that we can use. So this deals with all the services. You just have to provide the name of the service, as I already told you before. So name will be Nginx and the state should be started. Okay, so this is the second task. So the third task will be, so the third task will enable the service, and here as well I will use the service module again. Name will be Nginx and state will be yes, or enabled will be yes. And the next task for us was to actually grab the value of the Nginx version. So name, I'll provide it name like get Nginx installed version. And this can be achieved by using just a simple command module. The command will be Nginx space -v. The next thing, we wanted to grab the status of the Nginx service. So what we can do is we can just provide one more name here, and we will just type in the name as get status of Nginx service, and I'll give another command, that is systemctl status Nginx. So you might be thinking that these things are very basic that I'm doing right now, but imagine a person who doesn't know anything. If we start providing them details with so much complications, they won't be able to understand this. So I hope you will understand that this session is not just for experienced people. This is also for people who just are starting to learn Ansible. So I just want to keep things very simple. We can do fancy things here, but I don't think that's the way to learn. And that's not the way to actually learn things. Okay, so just be with me on this one. Once you have done this, this is complete for your playbook, and all these steps that you see here, all these tasks will be run on these particular hosts that are part of my servers group. And don't worry, I will be providing the code as well on my Git server. So you can just use the same thing for your testing, and you can do more experiments on the tasks and the commands that you want to use. So that will be fun. But we have a playbook right now, but the most important thing for us is to basically run this, isn't it? So let's go and run this playbook. I just want to show you the way that I have created these two instances. So these three are basically my EC2 instances, the Amazon Linux 2 instances. So this is my Ansible master, this is my Ansible 1, this is my Ansible 2. These are the two hosts. So what happens is, if you want to use these instances, you can basically SSH them, or else you can use something that I use, like the tool that I use, that is Termius. So you can use this as well. This is very easy. You can create new hosts. Similarly, I've created my 3 hosts, like Ansible master, host 1 and host 2. And if suppose you want to add new host, you can just click on this. You can provide a name here. You can provide the IP address. You can provide the username, the key that you want, the SSH key, and you can log into your hosts. So this is the Ansible master. I'll just double click on this, and it'll straight away connect me to that particular instance. I'll just delete all the things that I have. So the first thing for us is to create the Ansible playbook. So what I'll do, I'll just use vim install nginx will be my playbook name, and I'll type the extension as YAML. Just hit enter. Press I to go into the insert mode, copy the content, and just paste it here. Click on escape or hit escape. Type :WQ to save it and hit enter. You can just cat once again to see the content. So this is the playbook that we have. And if you wish to run it, what you need to do is, first of all, you need to configure the hosts, isn't it? So one thing that we need to do is we need to do sudo vi or vm /etc ansible and host. We have to modify this file. So I have already written my servers here, but I have changed the IP address. So what I can do is I'll just modify this file once again. I'll just delete these entries. I'll just show you once again. So what I can do is, the one thing that I wanted to mention here once again is, see, the host name that you see here, the pattern name should be same with the one I'm giving here. So it should be within the braces, and we'll talk about variables. So don't worry about this for now. Just remember that within the braces, inside the etc Ansible host file, you can just modify this, or you can create your own host file as well. But for now, I'm going to use this and already provided host file for me. So I'll just enter the IP addresses here. So I'll just copy the IP address of my first Ansible host, and I'll paste it here. So for now, let us work on the first instance. Then I will add the other one, or else what I can do is I can just copy the second one and I'll just comment it. I just first want to show you how it basically works. So let it run on the one machine that we have here, and then we'll see what are the execution steps. So just save it. So add the entry for the host name that you want and just save it using :WQ. So that's it. So what you can do, if you want to run, you have to basically configure it. So Ansible -playbook space the file name, that is install. And if you want to have a verbose, you can have 3 or 4 verbose arguments, but I'll just keep it at -1 or -v for me, and just hit enter. That will run. But basically, if suppose you face permission issues, then what you can do is you can configure the sh bash, and you can provide the keys for these two hosts that we have. I've shown this in the previous video, and that link is already there in the top right corner, so you can watch that video if you face permission issues. So once you have set the keys and the permission levels are correct, then just run this playbook. So now, as you can see, it is trying to install the latest version of Nginx. It is on the first step. Yes, it has installed, it has started the Nginx server, and it has enabled the service, and then it has ensured that it is on the latest version, and then it gets the status of the Nginx installed. So the first thing that you have to notice here is, just we'll go up. So there's the first step that we have written, play Nginx server on my servers list. So if you go back, you will see the same thing here. And this is the first step, install the latest version of Nginx. So it has come to the second step. where it has tried installing the latest version of Nginx, and it is on the same IP that is of our host 1, and it is showing you the command list that it's trying to install. I told you the return type for command will be the list of command that we are running right now, and it has installed the package, Nginx package, which are without any interruption. And the next step that it has started the service, Nginx server, and the status has changed from to true, and the name of the service Nginx state is equal to started. So once it has started, it has returned true for this one. And then the next step is enable. So the status has changed to true and enabled equal to true. And the third thing, it is returning as the latest version. So if you see, and this is the version that we are seeing here, Nginx version : Nginx/1.12.2. So this is the version that we are trying to grep here. And get status of the Nginx installed. So this is the systemctl status Nginx command, and this is the output for this one. So it is active and running right now. And if you see, OK equal to 6, changed equal to 5, not reachable, failed, skipped, rescued, ignored is 0. So our playbook has successfully run. So now what happens is, this is for only one, and what I will do is I'll just enable the other instance that I had, the host 2, so that we'll see what happens if it is trying to execute the same commands once again, and what happens if we have more than one host and we are trying to run the playbook on the host group. I'll just save it and I'll run the same command once again. Let me just clear this. So let's see what happens when we run this playbook on both the hosts. So let's go to the starting point. So here what you can see, it is trying to gather information about both the instances first. And this is the instance which already had Nginx already installed. So if you see here in this step, Nginx, install Nginx, here you can see for this one, it has already told that the changed will be false because this step already exists and s/nginx already exists. So it will not execute this step again. So it is okay for us now. So it does not want to install Nginx once again. But when it comes to the second host, 13.127.23.231.21, the status has actually changed to true and it has executed this command. So what happens is, for every instance that you have in the host group, it will go to the task, it will execute them on both of or all of the hosts that it has in the host group, and then it moves to the next step, as I told you before. So it has installed the Nginx on the second host, and once we come down, it is going to start the service. So changed equal to false because the service is already started for this host, the host 1. But for the new one, the changed will be true because it has enabled or it has started the service for this. The same way, the enable Nginx will be same or constant for the first host, but it will be enabled on the second one. And ensure Nginx is at the latest level. So both of them, the change will be true because it is just trying to grab the values. And here also the status will be true for both of them because the service is already running. So that is why you will see 5 changes and here only 2 changes. So let's see, I'll just run this command once again and let's see what happens. See, for everything, the changed will only be 2 because it is trying to grab the values. For only these 2, ensure Nginx is at the latest version and get status of Nginx installed. These 2 only will be having a status changed. Otherwise, everything will be green and it will be false because it does not need to execute these steps. So let's suppose what happens if the Nginx version is not there. So I'll just edit this to 2.12. Let's see what happens. Okay, this does not work because the path already exists. Let's clear this. I'll edit this once again. I'll just make sure it has Nginx 1.2 like this. Okay, we'll modify something. We just want to fail this. Let's suppose that version already does not exist. So what it happens? So see, what happens is If suppose it fails here, it is not moving forward again. And if you see the topic Nginx 2.12 is not found, so you get the error message here. That is the standard error, and error line will be this one. Let us just modify the playbook once again, and we'll just keep it the way it was. And there is one more thing that I wanted to show you guys. This was to basically copying one of the files from the Ansible master to the hosts. So that also we can do in Ansible by using a configuration command. So here I will just type one more command or one more task. I'll just keep a name here, name colon Ansible copy file to remote server. So whatever file that I provide here will be copied to a destination on the host server. So the command will be, or the module will be copy, which takes arguments as a source. So that will be home/ec2-user. That is the path of the home folder, and sample.txt, that will be my file. And here destination folder will be /home/ec2-user. That's it. So if you want to copy this file from source to destination, you can do that. This is mainly useful when you're trying to execute a particular shell script or something. You can do this by copying it, or if suppose you want to keep any configuration files also, you can do that. I know that you can do that using shell as well, but let's suppose you have a requirement where you want to copy this like log files or zip files or something like that. You can also do this. So this is the same thing that I will do again. I'll just copy this whole thing once again, or I'll just I'll just copy this. I'll just remove this file. I'll just modify this once again. Just paste it. There's a new entry that I have to copy the files. But ensure one thing, that you have this file already present. So I have sample.txt. So what will happen if I execute it without that file? So let's suppose. Okay. So we'll connect to the one of the hosts that we have here, host 1, and I'll show you that it does not have that file already existing on its folder structure. So this is home/ec2-user. I'll do ls. So it is completely clean. It does not have, I'm not faking this. It really works. So the first thing that I want to do here is I just run this without that particular text file. Let it run. The last step, it should fail because could not find or access home ec2 sample.txt on Ansible controller. So this is a controller and it is not finding that file here. So what we have to do, we have to provide that file, isn't it? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a sample.txt and I'm going to type, hello, this is the sample text that we want to share. Just save it and then do a ls to see whether you have the file or not. Yes, you have it. Just execute the command once again. Yay, this file is copied. Now what happens is we can go back to the host and do ls. See. See, we have the file here. So these are some of the few simple things that you can do using Ansible, and this is just a starting point for you. And there are so many great things that you can achieve using Ansible and the CI/CD and the automation that you want. But everything should start with a small step. So take this small step, try to learn more, read the documentation. And so I think that's it for today's demo. And I hope you will do this experiment as well. And you will also try out by installing and setting up your test environment for Ansible. Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another session of Ansible. And in today's session, we'll discuss a very important concept, that is variables. And we'll also have some fun as well, as we'll do a small hands-on demo for your understanding. So we'll understand what are Ansible variables, how to create variables, and what are the constraints in creating variables, and how to use variables in a playbook. I know most of you are very well versed with programming and you might be aware of what a variable is, but let's start with this statement here. So when you think of what is a variable, our mind tells us that a variable is a symbol that works as a placeholder for expressions or quantities that may vary or change. So all throughout our programming journey, we have used variables, and in our initial episodes, we have used variables to store data that we might want to use later on in the program. This is the same here in Ansible as well, but the most important thing for us is to have some kind of knowledge with Jinja 2 template, because Ansible uses Jinja 2 template expressions to delegate the variables. I have mentioned two links here. You can visit them for better understanding. But ensure that you have some kind of Jinja 2 templating expression knowledge in order to use the variables, and so that you can handle them very diligently in Ansible. Now let's start off with how to work with variables in Ansible. So Ansible uses variables to manage differences between systems. So differences between system means that, let's suppose you're working with multiple infrastructures, but the template remains same. So in order to avoid using hard-coded inputs every time, you can make different set of inputs for managing different deployments. And you don't have to change your template as is. And that's the biggest advantage of using Ansible and variables in general. So with Ansible, you can execute tasks and playbooks on different or multiple different systems with a single command. And this is possible with having a configuration that varies with the desired environment. So you can define these variables in your playbook, in your inventory, in reusable files or roles, or at command lines as well. So we can define the variables like simple string like foo. We can give it like foo underscore env, foo underscore port, and we can have digit after the string, and we can also have an underscore as a prefix here. So as I can show you, foo is there, foo underscore env is there, foo underscore port is there. Foo, which is which is having a 5 or a number after the string, is allowed, and you can have a preceding underscore for a string as well for your variables. But there are certain restrictions for variable naming. You cannot use something like star foo, which resembles the pointer notation. You cannot use variables same as the Python keywords such as async and lambda and others. And you cannot use playbook keywords such as environment as your variable name. And you also cannot use something like foo hyphen port, foo space port, or foo dot port. So these are not allowed. So hyphen, space, dot are not allowed. And you cannot use numbers or variable names that start with a number itself. So you cannot use numbers, and you cannot name a variable which starts with a number. And here below you can see I have mentioned the ways to create the valid variable name. So a valid variable name or a variable name can only include letters, numbers, and underscores. Python keywords or playbook keywords are not a valid variable name. A variable name cannot begin with a number, but variable names can begin with an underscore. So remember these points very carefully before writing your scripts or assigning variables. So let's see how we can define the variables. So we can assign variables with key value pair. So for example, we have install underscore path colon, the string of the path name. Here we have the install underscore path as a variable and the value as a path. So once we have assigned the value to the variable, then we can make use of the expression with double curly braces. As you can see here, this is basically a Jinja 2 templating expression. And we can provide the variable name, and that will become the placeholder for your data. So install underscore path becomes the placeholder of your data, and within the double curly braces, it becomes the expression. So as you can see here, we have the source string, the destination. I can just provide the install path. And this install path can change, and I don't have to change the template here. Below in the next example, if you want to use expressions, you need to apply it with quotes, else you will get the error like syntax error while loading YAML. So here you can see I have not provided quotes, so I'm getting the error. So make sure that you provide proper syntax. Here you can also define variables with multiple values. For example, we can define a list. So using a list of values in a variable. So I have assigned a variable name AWS underscore region. And this is basically your li structure or list index structure. So you can provide the values for this. And If you want to access the same values, you can use the indexing like we do in Python. So like if suppose I have to use the first value of AWS region from the list, I can do indexing of the value 0. So it'll give me the value of AP South 1. You can use dictionaries as well in the variables. So there are two ways to grab the values in this one as well. So let's suppose I have a variable AWS underscore region and it has a key value pair like AP South 1, John, USVs 2, Jesse. These are key value pairs. So same way like we access in Python, you can do the same way, or the way that we have here, see AWS underscore region. In square brackets, if I provide the key name, I'll get the value. So by using the square brackets, that's the first option. And we can also make use of the dot operator. So AWS underscore region dot the key. So by using the dot operator also, you'll get the same value John or Jesse based on the key that you have. And there is also a way where you can create variables from the output of an Ansible task with the keyword register. So remember this keyword very carefully, like this is very important, register. So this is very important because you can make use of the output in a variable and use that variable in the coming steps in the playbook. So you can use the variable register and put the output of that variable. And here if you see, we are executing shell command nginx-v, which gives us the value of the version of nginx, and we put that inside the nginx underscore version variable, which is being dumped using register. So the way we are defining it is basically register colon the variable name. And the same variable can be used in the other code as an input variable, like we have used it in the debug statement, as you can see. So message argument actually takes the string as an value. So here the current version of Ansible is, within this I have put the variable that I'm grabbing the value from, or from the first task that I've executed here. And this nginx version variable can be used here as an expression. So when you print the debug message, it will print this value. And there is one more way to grab these values, as I already told you, the dictionary way that we have here, like let's suppose AWS underscore region, Asia, AP South 1, Mumbai, they are all within square brackets. So if you want, you can directly access them as well within the double quotes, AWS region dot Asia dot AP South 1 dot Mumbai. So you can use either the square brackets or the dot operator, as I already told you. So let's suppose you want to separate out variables and put them into a variable file. You can do that as well. So here we have created a variable file, which is inside the /vars folder. So if you see, we have the same way we have discussed before, the key value pair. And let's suppose I have a variable that has a list of values. So if you have a file, how are you going to access it? So let's suppose I have my underscore variable.yaml. So how I will use it. On the right hand side, if you see, we have defined the variables in the vars module or vars argument. So vars module, what it does is it provides us with my var, which is the variable name for me, and the hello world is the value. Under vars, I can define the variables as per my requirement. The same way, vars underscore file gives me an option to provide the path of the variable file. So that is very clear here, as also we have used vars underscore file module and provided the path of the variable file, and that is a way you can use it. So you can use your values here inside that particular file by providing vars underscore file and the file name as well, and you can use it in your playbook. And there are a few ways to enhance your automation by using host and group variables. So don't worry about this. This is very simple. I'll explain you in a very simple term so that you get to understand what are host and group variables. The basic difference between host and group variables is that if you are assigning a variable to one machine, you can make use of the host variable. That's it. And if you want to assign a variable to many machines or multiple hosts at once, then go for the group variables. So let's start with the grouping of variables. So sometimes there are resources or variables that could be applied to multiple hosts at once. So why would you define the same values again and again, isn't it? Just define once, and by using group variables, and then it applies to all the hosts that are a part of the group. Here, if you see, we have variable host inventory my web servers, within which we have 4 host names. And then using the vars keyword, the vars keyword that you see here, my web servers :vars, what we are doing is we are applying these variables to all the hosts. So this is called grouping of variables. So within which we have like the host group, and by using :vars, we are able to define all the variables, and these all variables will apply to all the hosts that are present in that particular host group. So these will be applied to all the hosts which are under my web servers. So this is called grouping of variables. And you can as well inherit group variables to create a sequence of inputs that get applied to a group itself. So here if we see, we have two group names, Asia and Europe. So if you're working with two host groups, let's suppose ap.pytholic.com and ap2.pytholic.com are a part of Asia, and eu1.pytholic.com and eu2.pytholic.com are part of Europe. So we can create a child group and add the preceding groups inside it so that it becomes a collection of groups. So these are the two main groups that we have, and within which we will create a EMEA_region:children. By using children, we can add these two groups to that particular entity and make it a collection of groups. So we can do that by using the :children scope as EMEA_region:children. Within that, we can add Asia and Europe. So the main purpose of :children suffix is that you can make groups of groups using the :children suffix in INI files or the children entity or entry in YAML file as well. To all the groups that we have within EMEA_region, we can assign the same vars suffix to this, or the argument that we have here, the module. So we can assign this to EMEA_region and assign this particular variables to that. So these variables will be applied to each of the host or the host groups here, and all the hosts present in each of the host groups will have these variables applied to them. And if you want to go one step ahead as well, similarly, you can create a nested group by adding all these groups under a single group by using the same :children suffix. So here, if you see, I have region :children. So it encapsulate all these things. So let's suppose I am under EMEA. So Asia and Europe may be coming under that. So let's suppose I have Pacific region and Australian region and EMEA as well. So I can put them under one region group. And let's suppose I want to assign variables to region, then I can use the same vars argument, and I can just provide the name as region:vars, and then I can apply the variables that I want. So those will be applied to all these groups within which we have smaller groups, Asia and Europe, and within which we have individual hosts. So let's suppose there is a variable name that is called company, and it has to be applied across all the hosts. So what you can do, you can create the entry of that particular variable and you can group them accordingly so that they inherit the particular variable that you want. Let's suppose company name, and that company name gets applied to all the hosts within these groups. And the next one is host variables. So the groups were to assign values to multiple machines at the same time, but the host variables applies to one machine. So this is how we have previously defined our inventory as well. So this must be easy for you. So we have the variables and the host name group, or the one that we have already seen, and each of the variables applies to the whole group. So if you see, this is basically your host group, my web servers, under which we have the host names. And if I write my servers or my web servers :vars, and I give the variable names here, then these variable names get applied to all the host names that we have. But in host variables, what happens if suppose specific requirement is there for a specific host and you have to provide specific configurations for a particular host name, then what you can do, you can just have my web servers host group. You can have the entry of the host name, then the port manager, that let's suppose this is one of the variables. So port manager equal to 3366, proxy and base URL. So let's suppose they are different for all the hosts, then you can properly manage them individually as well. So this is one of the benefits of using host variables, and this is what most of the inventory files have. You can as well define variables at runtime. So by passing variables at the command line using -extra -vars or -e argument, or you can request user input with a vars prompt. So key equal to value format is there, based on which you can pass the variables. So Ansible -playbook, we have already seen this, how to execute a playbook. So Ansible -playbook space name of the playbook -extra -vars, and after which I have provided the arguments that I want to pass. So version equal to 1.12.1, build equal to latest, and we are using a key equal to value format here. And the next thing that you can do is you can pass JSON as well for your arguments. So here, the same way we have defined hyphen hyphen extra hyphen wheres, and here we have provided the JSON as well. So this is a key value pair, but this is not key equals to value, but this is particular JSON. And one more thing that you can do is you can pass a YAML file or a JSON file as a variable format. So the same thing applies here, hyphen hyphen extra hyphen wheres, and you can provide a JSON file or a YAML file as an input. Now let's see a hands-on demo for the variables part, and this should be fun and this should be very simple for you to understand. So I hope you will do this along with me. So this is the file that we had created previously in our previous demo. So we'll take this file as a placeholder for our new section that we are going to experiment with variables. So don't worry about this. We'll do some small modifications and tweaks so that we get to know how we can use variables here. So the first one that I want to do is I just want to replace this hard-coded value for Nginx, and I want to replace this path because this is a custom path that I have hard-coded. I don't want this, and I want a variable in that place, isn't it? So let's see how to define this variable. So you know how to execute this playbook, and you know how this particularly works. So the next thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to define a wheres keyword. So wheres will allow me to provide variables to this particular playbook, so within which I will provide a variable name nginx underscore version, and the version will be 1.12, and I'll provide one more variable that will be my base path. So that is basically my home/ec2-user. So as I already told you, when you are creating variables, you can replace them with the hard-coded values that you have. Just copy this and I'll just replace it here. So what we need to do, we need to provide double curly braces and we have to just paste the variable name here. And the next thing that I want to do is I want to replace the base path. So just copy the base path here and just paste it here. Provide the double curly braces and paste it here. Okay, so you see that we are getting an error here. What you can do, you can just provide quotes. I told you we will be facing errors. Okay, so when you're using strings along with the expression, please provide it with quotes so that it works. You can do this for this one as well, but it's not mandatory. But for the usage of expressions along with strings, you should provide the quotes. Just copy this and let's go to our machine. So I'll just remove the file that I already had. Let's create a new one. We'll just paste it. So here we are having the two variables that we wanted to create, nginx-version or nginx underscore version, and this one base underscore path. And this one will be the placeholder for our variable base underscore path, and this will be for my nginx underscore version. Just let's save it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this file that I have here in the host that we have previously copied. So I'll just do rm-rf sample-txt and just run the file once again. Okay, so one mistake that I have done here is basically, if you can see, it is not able to access this file path. So I have not given the delimiter here. I'll just give it and I'll try to execute this once again. Sorry for that, but yeah, you get to know if there is any error, so it's fine. If we got the file once again or not. Yeah, we got it. Yes, we have this. So the next thing that I want to do is for you to actually have this understanding. So let's go to this output once again and we'll see where we are able to print the version. So ensure nginx is at the latest version. So this is where we want to grab the value, isn't it? So let's suppose I want to grab this particular value. So this is inside the key stderr_line, isn't it? So what we can do is we can grab that particular value using this particular entity or this particular key. So how we will do that? So what I am going to do here is I'm going to register this variable. Register here, register, using register, I'm going to create a new variable, nginx underscore version. So this version will be my output for the nginx-v, and I'm going to use it inside a particular print statement or a debug statement. Print the version of nginx, and here to print the debug message, there is a functionality for us that we can use, that is debug. That is one of the commands or the modules that we have, and which takes an argument that is message, and post which we can write our message, the current version of nginx is, again use the curly braces, use the variable name dot stderr underscore lines of 0. So why am I doing this? So if you see the entry here, so this is stder lines, and that is the first value of this one. So this is the way I'm going to print it, and this value is going to come from the output of this particular command. I'm not hard coding the values here. It is just trying to grab the value from here. Let's see if it works or not. Let's clear this. We'll just delete the file once again, and we'll create it. Just paste the values here or the code here, and this is the debug message that we want to see. And we are going to use the register value or the register module, where actually we can assign a variable name to this, which actually captures the output of nginx-v, which is the command that is going to be executed on the particular host. So let's see how it works. Now same way, just run the playbook. This is the message that we got from there. So current version of nginx is nginx version, and that is the output that we are getting from the particular execution of this command, isn't it? So what we have learned today, we have learned how to create variable space, and we have assigned variable names to this one, and we have provided the values. We have provided the base path variable, and we have assigned it to a particular entry, which is trying to copy the source location file to the destination location. And we also have registered a variable, and the same variable nginx underscore version is being used in the next task, and we are not hard coding any values here when we are just printing the output that we got from this one. So this code is already available on the link in the description below. So please clone the repository and you can make use of this code. It is completely free for you. And just make sure that you read more about this in the documentation and try to experiment on the various modules that we have, and try to see if how it works and if you're able to execute them properly. And I would give you a task. So the task for today will be to put these under a variables file and use the function or the module that we actually can import the variable file onto this particular playbook, and try to see whether it is able to execute it or not. So that is one of the tasks that I want to give you. In the past few sessions, we have learned a lot about modules and the ways we can use modules for our automation. But what if we want to create our own Ansible modules? So can we do that? Let's see if that's a possibility. So when we wrote a playbook previously, we made use of the existing modules and parameters to execute the operation. That is what we used to make our automation better. So let's understand, or let's try and understand this playbook, and let's clarify these terms. So the first one is -name, set up nginx server on my server list. So this is our name string. The second point, host : my servers. So this is the host group that makes it a pattern as well. So this is the host group, and within all the host group, all the hosts that are present on those machines that are available as a part of that host group. The third one is become : true. As I said, it is used for elevating privileges. You can use become as true or yes. And the fourth one, task. Next, we actually are defining the task using this task parameter. And after that, we have -name, and then we have the Ansible module, that is command. Here the command module helps you to execute commands on the shell prompt or as well as on the Windows PowerShell. But we use win_command command. That's a separate thing. But that is basically the operation that the command module does for us. But along with that, it takes the task keyword, that is basically our arguments. The next thing that we have done is we have given the parameter as well, that is creates, and we have given the path, that is the path string. So all this, if you see, we are having a collection of statements that are able to execute a certain operation. So this Ansible module that we have here will be used to install applications, execute commands and operations on the host, which are a part of your host group. So that's what we are seeing here. So this is the playbook that we are writing. We are using the command module. And when we try to execute this from our Ansible master onto the host group that we have here, so it gets executed on system A, system B, system C, system D. So that is how it gets propagated. But our main focus for today is, let's suppose if I have a custom requirement to create a specific module, then how to do that. So for that, you need to come to Ansible module development getting started. So this module will provide you all the basic requirements and the prerequisites that you need to create your own Ansible module. So first thing for us is to set up an environment. And for that, I need a Ubuntu machine, and we'll install the dependencies that we have here in the documentation. So let's go ahead and create an Amazon instance for Ubuntu. So this is the Amazon EC2 console. You have launch instances here. Just click on that. You have the Ubuntu server. See, I don't have any problem that you have to do it with Ubuntu. I'm just following the documentation. You can do it in any other operating system as well. So don't think that it can only be done using Ubuntu. You can do it with Red Hat and Amazon Linux too as well. So there is no harm in doing anything in any other operating systems. Just make sure that you follow the protocols and the documentation for you to achieve the same results that we are achieving here. So we have the Amazon server 20.04 LTS version and 64-bit x86 architecture. That's what I'm going to select. Select that, and we'll quickly create an instance. So let's wait for it to get started. Let's copy this public IPv address and we'll try and connect to that particular instance. Remember, the username for Ubuntu machines will be Ubuntu, not EC2 user. So don't get confused if it does not work. Just give the username as Ubuntu and just save it. That's it. So there's the one that we are using right now. So just add and continue. So you might be thinking that what we are trying to achieve here. The first thing that I want to tell you is that for everything that you want to achieve or you want to write, let's suppose you're writing a code on Python. So for that, you need Python installed, isn't it? If you want to run it. So just like that, if you want to run Ansible commands, you need Ansible to run it, isn't it? But for you to have your development environment set up, you need the Ansible core code itself. And on that itself, you're going to modify some of the files and you're going to add some of the files for your own customization. And that's how it works. So if you have your own Ansible code or the root level code that you have, then you can make changes to that. And once you run that particular environment, then you will be able to make use of the custom scripts that you have or the modules that you want to create. We'll just see what is the present working directory here. So home/Ubuntu, and we'll come here and we'll clone the repository. There's the first step, and let's clone the repository for Ansible. So you will get the Ansible code. Okay, so now once your Ansible code is cloned, you can just do a ls here. You will see the folder Ansible, and within which you have all the Ansible code that you need to run your own version of Ansible. The own version of Ansible means if you have to customize something, if you want your own code to be present in one of the command modules or Anything that you want to customize, you can do it here. It will not affect the overall environment that you have. So now what it is telling is change the directory into the repository root, create a virtual environment. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do cd Ansible, and here it tells me that I can do it like this. So my main aim is that I want to create, so I'm giving it my venv. So if you have to create virtual environment in Python 3, you can give the command Python 3 -m, that is the module name. The module name is venv, and you can give the name of the virtual environment that you want to create, and then just press enter. Okay, so if this doesn't work, then you have to install this. Let's install the virtual environment. Now once it is done, just try to create this. So if it did not give you any error, then just do a ls here. Inside the Ansible folder, you will see a folder name that is my venv. We'll do a ls -al. Yeah, see, this is the one that got created. So you can do a my venv, and you can, if you want to activate it, what you need to do is you can just go inside when, and you will have this activate. You can do /activate, it will activate the virtual environment for you. But let's come back to the documentation part. So what it is telling next is you have to activate the virtual environment, and you have to install the requirements.txt that we have here. So for that, what you need to do is, it is telling dot. So what it is saying is you can do .venv/bin/activate. So for us, it is my venv, right? That's it. So once it is activated, you will see a placeholder here for that particular environment, which tells you that your virtual environment is active right now. And within this environment, you can install any packages, and that will be local to that particular virtual environment. It will not affect your overall Python installation. And now what we have to do is we have to install the development requirements. So this is the requirements.txt, and it has a lot of files, and it has a lot of modules. So you can check that out. There's the file. You can do a cat here, requirements.txt, and you will see these are the modules that have to be installed here. This is also there. So in order to install this, what you can do, you can just type pip install -r requirements.txt, and then just hit enter. But before that, I want to show you something. Like, you can do pip freeze, and see there nothing installed here. So this virtual environment does not have any packages installed. So just make sure that you check it ahead of installing it once again. Now that that has been installed, what you can do, you can just do a pip freeze again. You see, all the packages that were inside that requirements.txt have been installed now. The next thing is to run the environment setup for each dev shell processing. So you can just do this as well. So hacking, this folder is there, hacking, we have to activate this as well. So just do environment setup. Okay. So the path, Python path, and everything has been set so that Ansible can make use of it. Now your development setup or prerequisites are done. The next thing that you have to do is write your code. And whenever you want to come back and you want to start working on this once again, you can just copy this same thing. Let's suppose I want to move out. I want to restart this machine. Then I have to come back and start working again on that particular environment, isn't it? So what I can do, I can just, let's suppose I disconnected from this machine. Okay. Remove it. Close it. And this is the machine that I was currently working on, right? Isn't it? So I'll just double click on that. And if you see, currently I don't have that prompt for virtual environment. What I can do, I can just do a cd cd Ansible, and within which I can actually type my VNV activate and hacking environment activate. That's it. So now this is also done, and my virtual machine, my virtual environment also is being activated. So I'm good to go now. So every time I come back and I restart the machine or anything that goes bad, like if I want to restart the things once again, I can just come back and execute the same command and I'll be good to go. So here you have information like you can create your info modules and fact modules, which gives you information about what the actual module is doing. And you can have a documentation as well based on these info and fact modules. But our main focus for today is if I have to create a module for myself. So in order to create a new module, navigate to the correct directory from your new module. So within Ansible, there is a modules folder within which if I have to create a module, I have to add my file there. So lib Ansible modules will go there. So if I have to see here, so we have lib, inside which I have Ansible, inside which I'll have modules. Isn't it? Do a ls here. And if you see, most of the modules that you are going to use in Ansible will be present here itself. See, we have command module here. If you open this and if you read the command module, you will understand that it is just a Python script. It is telling you what to pass as an argument in the playbook, and it will execute it based on the arguments that are provided there. So similar to that, we have to create our own module as well. So to create your own new module, you can just type vim my_test module as it is given there. And you have to create a new file here. Ansible already has a predefined format and documentation. So based on that, you have to write your own modules as well. So for that, what Ansible tells us is that you can paste the content below on your new module file. And it includes the required Ansible format and documentation, a simple argument spec for declaring the module options, and a sample example code. So this code that you see here can be straight away used, and we have to just modify this code to make a particular Ansible module. And that is as per the Ansible standard. So we'll not modify them. We'll just tweak them for our requirement. Just copy this. Hit I. Just paste it here. Okay. Just see here now. From the top. So you have your shebang. You have the copyright details, the licensing. Module does. You can write your own things here like short descriptions, like this is my test module. You can modify this. There's no problem with that. You can provide the information like what does it do, what parameter it takes, what argument it takes, what type of argument it takes, whether it should be a string or Boolean. You can provide everything here. And you can provide an example code as well for users to use. So this is the place where the actual execution happens. So within this, you have module arguments. So here, if you see, it takes two arguments, name and new. You can tweak that based on your requirement. So this is just test module. So when you pass a particular name here, it is just going to return a string for you. So that is just a basic purpose of this particular module. This is just a test module. So we'll just see how we can run this. And then once we have executed this properly, we'll see how we can write our own custom module. So you have this file. Now you can just save it by clicking on escape:wq. And if you do ls here, you'll find your test module also here as well. Where did it go? GHIJ. Yeah. So here, my test.py. What is the next thing that it tells us to do? So if I have to execute my module locally, what I can do is I can create a temp args.json. So there is a temp folder here. So temp, what I can do is I can create a args.json here. Args.json, and this will be my input file. So I can just copy this. I can just paste it here. So these are the two things that my test module actually takes, name and new, as I told you. So the name actually is a string that is hello, and new is a Boolean that is true. So just save it for now. You can run the module and test it. And the next thing that it is telling is you have to activate it and run the development environment. These two has already been done. So the next thing that we have to do is we can just run this module. So what is the command that we are showing here? So this is just a test command. So python-m ansible.modules.mytest. So mytest is the module name. And then it takes the argument from here. So once you run this, it will give you the basic formatting of what a particular result should look like. Okay. So as I told you, if you have made the new equals true, then it will keep the status as or changed equal to true. Original message will be hello. Message is goodbye. So that is the purpose of this particular module, that once you pass a string here, it will give you a message, and the invocation will be module args name hello and new equal to true. So this is the basic input that have been provided. This is just a simple execution. So let's suppose I want to write a playbook for this. So that option has already been given. So I can go back to my Ubuntu, my home folder, and I can create a playbook here, test mod. Okay. So now I can just copy this. And this playbook is very simple. You have to provide a name, and host is localhost. It means that you are testing this particular module locally. You're not going to install it on any other machine or any VM. And we have two tasks here. So first one is run the new module. So here we are passing our own created module, that is my underscore test that we created. So that name of that particular module will be same as the Python file name that we have provided there. So my underscore test, and then it takes name as an argument, that is hello, and new equals true. And we are registering the output that we are collecting from this particular module in register, that is our variable is test out. And then we are dumping the test output to this particular debug message. So that is as simple as it can get. Just save this. So now we have the playbook. So how to run a playbook? We can just type Ansible -playbook. So what you can do is Ansible playbook /test not.yaml. So now if you don't specify any other module and the host does not have any other modules, so it will take the local host by default. And if you see here, we have the dump test output, and there's the debug message that we are getting. So changed equal to true, failed equal to false, message equal to goodbye, and original message equal to hello. So now what we have achieved is we have successfully run the development setup. We have written a test code, and we have successfully tested it on the local environment. I have to write an Ansible module which can take a string and encode it and give me the result, and that same module should be able to decode if I provide a encoded string to it. You understand the requirement? So the same module, it should take the string and it should encode it, and also it should be able to process a encoded string or a byte string into a normal string that we have. So it should perform both the base 64 encoding and base 64 decoding. So such is the requirement for us. So what I'm going to create is I'm going to create a base 64 mod that will be my Ansible module, and the type of arguments it will take is the name, that will be the string, type will be either encode or decode, and new equal to true or false based on the status change that I want to do. And the playbook will be exactly like this. I'll register the output, whether it is encoded output or the decoded output, and I'll dump it to my debug message. So this is the particular requirement that I have right now. And we are going to write some basic Python commands. So if you are not aware of Python, don't worry. This is very simple. Anyone who has some basic understanding will be able to write this, or you can just copy the same code that I have given here, and I will be giving this on the Git repository as well. You can copy the same thing and you can try and experiment on that and try to learn things in a simple way, so that when you try to achieve something big, you will not have that initial hurdles. So try and make use of the initial time that you have and try to learn things that you are able to understand and grasp. Don't worry if you're not aware of Python. It's not a mandatory thing here. It is better to learn it, but if you don't know it, don't worry, you can just learn this and you can see how simple it is. And if you get the confidence now, you can as well go ahead and learn Python and execute your own operations as well. So first of all, we have to create our own module, and we'll go to that particular path that we had, the module path, and we'll write our own Python code. I'm going to create a new file. So my new file will be base64 mod, base64 mod.py, and just hit enter. So this is the placeholder for me to write the code. So my benchmark that I am going to set is basically, so let's create a base64 mod.py. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the same content that I need, and I'll just modify my code here. So go ahead and copy this, just paste it here. Okay, so now this is done. So I don't want to modify this Terry Jones 2018 copyright and everything. Let's just add my name at the bottom by Pythoholic 2021. And this is fine. We don't have to mess up with the import statements. The documentation is also fine. And this is not going to be my test. It will be base64 mod. And this will be my test module. Okay. So this is my base64 module, encode and decode. So the first thing that you have to go is you have to understand that it starts from main. When it goes to main, it is going to run module, isn't it? So run module is this particular function. So the module arguments that you see here is basically the arguments that you pass. So the next thing that I wanted to give was type, isn't it? So type equal to dictionary, and the string, that is basically a string, and required equal to true. So that's a mandatory value for us. Now come down, you don't need to change this, not a problem. There's the original reference dictionary. So it is just creating the module object here. There's the check mode analysis. And after that, this is the place where you're going to edit your code. So it's written here as well, manipulate or modify the state as needed, where your module will do what it wants to do. So this is the place where you're going to have your own code. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to check if module dot params. I'll just copy this. I don't want to do any spelling mistakes. So the first thing that I want to check is it should have either encode or it should have either decode. Otherwise, it should throw an error for me. It should be either encode. So what I'll do is I'll give a flag here, status flag. So if it is encode, then what it will do is it will set the flag to true. Or else, if it is decode, it will set the flag decode status equal to true. And just copy these things and just keep it here as variable declaration decode, and set the flags to false. So this will be the default flag status. Okay, let's save it. So now our input validation is partially done. I don't want to do much here. You can as well do the input validation for your strings that you provide. So now the next thing what we have to do is we have to raise an alert here. So for that, you see we have a message here like module exit JSON. Similar to that, we have fail JSON here. So with this, we can actually raise error messages. You can just copy this, or you can just copy this as well. Just delete this. So what I have to check is if not encode status and not decode status, if both of them are false, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw an error exception. So that will be bad input, and it should be encode or decode. Okay, so this is the message that I have here. So it will fail the JSON. The next thing is, once I have the input validation done, I have to change string to base 64 and return it. So now what I have to do is, so this is my encode part. So if encode status, so at a time only one operation can be there because there is only one type. So just make sure that you don't get confused here. So message will be, the message is equal to module. We are going to take the parameter params of, what is the parameter? Name, isn't it? So name is the parameter, and message underscore byte will be message dot encode of ASCII. So I'm going to just format it to the ASCII characters, and then I'll convert this to base 64 encode. So for that, what I need to do, if I need to use encoding, I have to just import this, import base 64 here. So it will be able to use that encoding functionality. So post that, what I can do is base 64 underscore byte underscore string, bytes underscore string is equal to str of, I just want to convert it to str, so base 64 dot base b64 encode. So that is a particular method within that particular base 64 package, message underscore byte. So I'll take this and I'll pass it here, and I'll use the base 64 encode that is present in base 64 that we encode that we just imported right now, and I will store it in a string format here. After that, I have to show it to the user, isn't it? So there is a result JSON which I can make use of. So this is the result JSON here. See, there's the result JSON. So that is what I'm going to use here. So result of original message is equal to message, which is basically our module parameters of name. And then copy this once again, just paste it 3 times. So encoded message will be 64 byte string, and then message, we have to give some message to the user, so that will be basically your string. Your data is encoded to base 64. Enjoy. Okay, so your users can enjoy now. So now what we can do is we can use the same logic here to decode the string. Just use the same thing here, and we'll just change a few things. Change base 64 to normal string and return it. So here it will check for decode status. So module status, module parameters is name. The next thing that gets changed here is message base 64. So we'll change this to a new name. So this will be my base 64 underscore name message, and this one will be base 64 underscore bytes message. So this will be base 64 message dot encode of ASCII, and then base 64 byte string str of base 64 dot decode of base 64 bytes. So we are taking this byte here and we are providing it here, and we'll just convert this. So original message here will be base 64 message decoded message will be base 64 byte string, and message will be decoded to normal string. Okay, just copy this and we'll just paste it here. So we have the decode status, we have the encode status, Okay, we have the validation, we have the variable declaration or the status flag declaration. We have given it the type is equal to dict of str. Yeah, that's fine. Just save this. Now I'll create a playbook in our home folder. So I've created this. So what exactly it tells is that it will take the host as localhost. It will take the name as hello. That is a string that we want to encode. So type equals to encode here. Status change equal to true. And the test results will be dumped into that particular debug message. So this is what I need. So let's create another playbook here. So this will be my playbook 64.yaml. Press it I, Control V, paste it, and this is the playbook that we have. So the playbook is this. So it executes localhost. So it executes on the localhost, and it uses base64 mod that we have recently created. It takes hello as a string, and it encodes it. Let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so ansible-playbook./playbook64.yaml. Just hit enter, and it should basically encode your string. So this is the original message. There's the encoded message. The message that I wanted to give to the user was your data is encoded to base64. Let's copy this. Let's copy this string that is basically your, so that is basically your encoded string, isn't it? So I'll just modify this playbook. I'll just modify here and I'll show it to you. Let's just modify the playbook. Here I will provide now decode, and the string that I have is this one. So this is the encoded string and I want to decode it. So the type will be decode now, and we'll run the playbook now. So we'll see whether it is able to decode or not. Okay. Yeah, so the original message was this. It is able to decode it to hello. So that is one of the very simple requirements that I had. Let's suppose I give something else. Let's see what happens. Let's suppose I gave it let's save it and let's run it. What happened? When there was a condition that we had put for input validation, it has actually helped us to identify that that was a bad input. It should be either encode or decode. The benefit of using input validation is that whenever there is a wrong input, it basically helps you identify what exactly the error was, and based on our input validation we were able to supply a very good understandable message so that our users or someone who is going to use our module will be able to understand if there is any error. So you have to do the same thing. You have to follow protocols, you have to follow the measures, and you have to follow the standards and ensure that your code is going to be used by someone else. So you make sure that your code is understandable enough and there are proper error handling mechanisms in place, and all the messages that you write for your error handling should be meaningful and others should not face any problem while using your modules. So that's it for today's session on Ansible demo. That is basically how to create your own Ansible modules. I hope it was easy to understand, and I hope you will also experiment this by creating your own environment, your test environment, and installing the Ansible SDK, and you will let me know how did it go for you. And if you faced any problems, then please put them in the comment section below. I'll try and answer them. And if you wish to support me, then the links to Instamojo, PayPal and Patreon are given in the link in the descriptions, and you can join the membership on the channel as well if you wish to support the channel. So wishing you all the good health and success. Until then, it's Pythoholic signing off.